Welcome to today's story, Eyes in the Dark. This is a chilling and mysterious tale of fear, danger, and hidden secrets. As the shadows of Brynmawr Hill close in, one woman's life is changed forever. Stay with us as we uncover the dark truth behind the legend. Chapter 1 At the Zoo. Today, thought Susie Blackmore, is going to be another miserable day. She was by herself in her small flat in West London. It was late September 1999, the last part of the final year of the century, the millennium. Sunlight came through the window, while the autumn wind slowly moved the trees outside. A bus stopped near the house, picked up passengers, and drove away again. Susie listened for a while to the traffic sounds below. Life continued as usual. Slowly, she stood up and made some tea. Carrying the cup back to the table by the window, she sat down again. But this was no good. She had no wish to work. The dream from the night before was still with her, following her like a shadow. The bad dreams had started weeks ago, the night after her father's death. In some of them, she was in a strange place, running away from something dark and deadly that chased her. Fear filled her every time. Often a voice shouted her name, and she would wake up. Even though it was a dream, she was convinced the voice was real. When her tea was gone, she checked her watch. It was a little after 10. Come on, she told herself. Get moving. She put on her coat, picked up her camera, and left a message on the answering machine for her husband, Charlie. I've gone out to do some work. I'll be back around noon. Leave a message and I'll return your call. The underground station was quiet at that hour. She bought a ticket and waited. When the train stopped between stations, Susie glanced at the other passengers. She studied their faces reflected in the glass. Outside was nothing but blackness. She thought again about her father, trying to see his face in the reflection too. But the gentle eyes and kind smile did not appear. Could she have forgotten him already? A wave of sorrow went through her. The phone call from the hospital had been a shock. Everything happened so quickly, they said. An ambulance had rushed her father in, but nothing could be done. The doctor had only said he was sorry. Now Susie felt like a little girl again, lost in an adult world. Yes, she had Charlie, but that was different. Her mother had died when she was a baby, and now the only relatives left were cousins in Slovenia. She barely knew them. They had called her after hearing the news, their first conversation since childhood. His heart just stopped, she told them. No one could do anything. It was sudden. She dreamed of her father too. In last night's dream, he was smiling. Don't worry about me, he said. I'm fine. He was back in his home village in Slovenia, happily meeting old family and friends. I'll visit you when I get home, he promised, just as he used to say when he was alive. In the dream, she thought, so he isn't dead after all. It was all a mistake. But then she woke and remembered. She left the train at Regent's Park and walked toward the zoo, one of her favorite places. It was so unlike the busy shops, offices, and noisy traffic of London. She loved to watch the animals as they played, ate, or slept. The zoo had asked for photographs. In her line of work, talent wasn't enough. Susie knew she was good, but she also had to work hard and constantly find new jobs. She loved photography, but it was tiring. And now, with her father gone, she wondered if it was time for a change. For the first time, she wanted a child life to replace the life she had lost. That morning, there were few visitors. She had the zoo nearly to herself, except for the keepers feeding the animals. Susie stopped to watch the grey wolves as they paced up and down. They looked more like large tame dogs than wild creatures. She remembered her father's stories about the Volkodlak, a man-wolf vampire who stole away naughty children at night and drank their blood. As a child, she had believed it. The memory made her smile. She lifted her camera. One of the wolves stopped and stared at her. She stared back through the lens. Suddenly the hairs on her arms stood up. Fear gripped her. She couldn't move. It seemed as if the wolf wanted to tell her something. The next moment, she was lying on the ground. A zookeeper's worried face appeared above her. "Are you all right, love?" he asked. "I've sent for the doctor." Was all she could manage to say. Chapter 2. Voice of the Beast. I sleep with my eyes open. I hear the smallest sound and wake. If a soft breath of air moves over the hair on my skin, I know something alive is near. Scents of animals carried on the wind can reach me from hundreds of kilometers away. Are you afraid of the dark? Your fear is justified. We dwell in darkness, and there we do our work. Know this: we desire only harm. We want only what can wound you. When you are weak, we will know it. Then we watch you as you sleep, waiting for the moment we can drag you into our shadow. At night we speak to you and call you to come. The knock at your door that wakes you in the night, that is one of us, come to invite you to a living death. Do not listen. Plug your ears if you wish to keep your life. We have always been here. We have been here since the beginning of time. Long ago, people ate with the gods. In Arcadia, in Greece, there was a man named Lycaon. In Greek myths, Lycaon was a son of the earliest men, and he ruled the people who lived on the hills and in Arcadia's woods. But Lycaon was wicked, and one day Zeus heard of his deeds and visited him in disguise. Lycaon killed a child and offered it to Zeus to eat. Zeus was furious and changed Lycaon into a wolf. Lycaon left his people and lived alone in the forest. He was half man, half wolf. The sons of Lycaon, my brothers and I, have walked the earth ever since. We left Arcadia and spread across the world. Each of us went his own way. We hid in many places. Sometimes we revealed ourselves, but people were terrified. They used guns and silver bullets against us. They made great fires and burned us. They cut off our heads. Yet we did not die. We merely altered. We became the undead. We moved through the world in many shapes. You do not always see us, but we are with you in every land, east and west, north and south, in Venezuela, France, Mexico, and Florida. From the Caucasus to the Alps, from Georgia to Greece, from Russia's frozen plains to England's green hills. If you listen closely, you can hear our cries carried on hot southern winds, or across the white northern mountains. There is nothing you can do to escape us. You may believe silver bullets can kill us. They cannot. We shift from one body to another, from place to place. We need blood and dead flesh, and we are always hungry. We will kill any living thing: babies, cattle, children, sheep, goats, chickens, men, women. How will you recognize us? What will you see? Sometimes I take the form of a night creature, a bat, a wolf, an owl, or I am a wild black dog, like the hound that waits at the gate of the underworld. Sometimes I am the ghost that lies down beside you as you sleep. Other times I appear as a beautiful young man or woman, the person you desire most. I am all these things and none of them. I move between your world and mine as easily as a fish in water. You cannot imagine how simple it is. You may catch a movement at the corner of your eye. When you turn to look, nothing is there, only a leaf blown by the wind, you tell yourself. But I am following in the dark behind you. I am your worst dream. Chapter 3. A Breakaway. Are you all right? Charlie asked Susie that evening as they sat in their small kitchen. You're very quiet. He studied her carefully. Her dark Eastern European eyes often made her skin look pale, but tonight she seemed even whiter. Dark shadows hung under her eyes. Yes, I'm fine. I just can't sleep well lately, Susie replied. I keep having these dreams. Last night it was about Dad. I thought he was alive again. Her voice trembled slightly. Charlie worried about her. Since her father's death in August, she had seemed lost. She had looked so unwell that he made her visit the doctor. The doctor had explained it was natural to feel this way after losing a parent and that she would improve in a few weeks. He gave her sleeping pills. But today, Charlie thought, she seemed more frightened than sad. Susie stayed silent, and Charlie didn't press her. He always felt there was a side of her he could never fully reach. Though her mother was English, and he had lived all her life in London, something about her still felt foreign. At first, this had attracted him, and he now loved her deeply. Yet sometimes he wondered if he truly knew her. Perhaps what they needed was something new in their lives. A child. Charlie wondered if a baby might help her recover from her father's death. He was almost 30. A good age to become a father. I think we should go on holiday, he suddenly said. Relax a bit, get away from everything. Well, Susie began. We should spend more time together, Charlie added. We're always so busy. Sometimes I don't see you for days. Susie looked at him. Yes, maybe you're right, she answered slowly. We could find a house in the countryside, somewhere far away from London. Good idea, Charlie agreed. What about Wales? I went there as a child. There are some lovely small houses up in the hills. Perfect, let's do that, Susie said. But I have a few jobs to finish first. Me too, Charlie replied. I can't leave until after next month. I've got a big show to organize. 2 months later, on a cold grey Saturday in November, they were driving along a narrow road in the Welsh hills. They had left London early that morning, and now, close to midday, they seemed to be in the middle of nowhere. Are you sure this is the right way? Charlie asked. The last houses they saw had been in a village about 3 kilometers back. Yes, I think so, Susie said, checking the hand-drawn map again. The road was rough, with grass growing thickly down the center. It took them through a dark forest and down a hill. As they began to climb again, a fox darted out from the trees and ran ahead of the car. Look at that, Susie cried. She had never seen a wild fox before. Oh, Charlie was equally surprised. The fox paused, stared at them with cold eyes, then ran on and suddenly vanished into the woods. It's showing us the way, Susie laughed. Through the trees, they soon saw a dark stone building. A wooden sign read, Singhordy House. At last, their holiday home. Inside, the house was cold, and the tall trees outside made it seem darker still. The front door opened into a small kitchen. A door led into a sitting room with an old sofa and armchair by the fireplace. Beyond it was a bright room facing south. From its window, Susie saw the ground rising to a high round hill. At its foot was a small wood, but the top was bare. 2 large birds circled above it in the empty sky. Charlie, come look. What are those birds? She called. Red kites, he explained. They're rare in Britain, but you find them in parts of Wales. They eat meat. Probably there's a dead animal down there for their meal. A horrible thought, Susie said. Charlie was reading a sheet with information about the house. It says the nearest shops are in the village we passed, Llanderfyd. And there are a couple of pubs there too. It's freezing in here, Susie complained. How do we heat the place? Ah, Charlie replied. It says, the wood-burning fire in the sitting room heats the hot water and the whole house. Don't worry, he added quickly as her face fell. It also says there's plenty of cut wood in the garage. Let's light the fire then, Susie said. And I'm hungry. After that, why don't we go back to the village? We can eat in a pub and buy some food. All right, good plan. Charlie went out to the car to fetch their suitcases. Susie watched him. His thin blonde hair kept falling into his eyes, much taller than her. He always bent his head toward her when speaking. Suddenly, tears filled her eyes. These days, the smallest things made her want to cry. Hot and red-faced, Charlie brought in the last heavy suitcase. That's it, thank goodness. What on earth have you got in here? It's so heavy. Just my camera and gear, that's all, she replied. Can you help me with the fire? The wood won't catch. Why is it that women can't light fires? I'd really like to know. Charlie smiled as he searched for an old newspaper in the sitting room. He began putting pieces into the fireplace. Outside, the birds screamed overhead, and the wind shook the tall trees. Susie shivered again. There must be a window open somewhere, she thought, as a faint draft moved through her short dark hair. Chapter 4. Voice of the Beast. Let me tell you a story. It was Midsummer's Eve in 1899. The full moon shone over Brynmawr Hill in central Wales. A farmer was out with his dog, waiting for the animal that had been killing his sheep. He carried a gun under his arm. In the moonlight, he suddenly saw sheep running across the field. Something large and dark followed them, moving quickly. He raised his gun and fired. The thing gave a terrible cry, like a wolf, and stood up on its hind legs. To the farmer, it looked more than 3 meters tall. It was wounded, but it ran down the hill on 2 legs and disappeared into the woods. The farmer's dog turned and ran home as fast as it could. The farmer fired his gun into the trees a few times, then followed his dog. His face was white with fear. When he got home, he said nothing to his wife about what he had seen. But that night, he could not sleep. The next morning, the farmer's wife went to the village to buy food. Someone told her about an accident to the son of a rich family who lived nearby. Soon, everyone was talking about the young man. "What do you think?" the farmer's wife asked her husband when she returned. The boy shot himself in the leg. He was playing with his gun and it went off by mistake. He's old enough to know better. The farmer only shook his head and said nothing. After a while, people forgot about the young man's accident. Everyone except the farmer. He could not forget what he had seen on Brynmawr Hill. He also noticed that the young man had vanished. No one ever saw him again. On nights when he could not sleep, the farmer wrote in a notebook about that strange midsummer's eve. Years later, after he died, his wife found the notebook. When the story got out, people said the old farmer had been mad. Of course, most did not believe him. By then, the rich family had moved away, and their large house stood empty. Strangely, no one wanted to buy it. Why am I telling you this? Because I was that young man. After I was hurt, I traveled across that part of Europe, stretching from Hungary in the east, through Austria and Slovenia, and into northern Italy. There I lived with others of my kind in the hills and mountains until I healed. Later, I went south to Greece and visited Mount Lycaon, where Lycaon was turned into a wolf, where it all began. I kept to the woods and stayed hidden. I took sheep or goats only when wild prey was scarce. For many years I was not seen. But then I grew careless and traveled to many places in Europe. A soldier saw me near a place called Morbach in Germany in 1988. I do not deny that people tell such stories. Now I have returned. I have come back to the hills and ancient woods of Wales. This feels like home, the right place, I think, to welcome in the new millennium. Chapter 5. In the Black Dog Pub. "Let's try that place, shall we?" Charlie said. He was looking at a pub on the road leading into the village of Llandafid. They parked next to an old dirty van outside the pub. Inside the van was a sheep staring sadly at them through the window. They walked to the front door. Charlie tried to open it, first pulling, then pushing. Suddenly it opened, and he almost fell inside. The pub was not busy, even though it was lunchtime. Susie quickly sat by a warm fire while Charlie went to the bar. He asked the woman behind it for 2 beers and a menu. The room was very quiet. A man sitting at the bar turned to watch as Charlie joined Susie at the table. Then he turned back and spoke in Welsh to the landlady. The strange sounds of the language filled the quiet room, while Susie and Charlie looked at the menu. As Susie raised her head, her eyes were caught by a painting across the room. Against dark moonlit hills, a black dog with glowing red eyes seemed to stare at her. While she looked at the picture, the man sitting beneath it stood up and walked slowly to the bar with his empty glass. He glanced at Susie. His hair was dark but turning grey, and his skin was very pale, like a plant that never saw sunlight. She found herself staring into his clear blue eyes and felt a disturbing sense that she had seen him before. Suddenly, she wished she was anywhere but in that pub, in that Welsh village. "Another one, Richard?" the landlady asked him. "Yes, please," Richard replied. Then he asked the farmer at the bar, "Trouble, Tom?" "I'm afraid so," Tom said, now speaking in English. "I found 2 of my sheep dead today. They looked awful. Their tongues were gone, ears and noses bitten off. I've never seen anything like it." His voice dropped lower, and there was no blood. Not on the ground, not on the bodies. "It must have been a fox or a dog, Tom," the landlady suggested. Tom shook his head. "No, no animal on this earth kills like that. It's the Beast of Brynmawr," Richard said calmly. "It's returned." "Oh, don't be silly," the landlady said with a laugh. "That's just a story." "But it's true," Richard insisted with a smile. "It's a werewolf. Everyone knows. Half man, half wolf. It was last seen on Brynmawr Hill 100 years ago." The landlady laughed again. Susie and Charlie, trying not to listen, heard every word. "I'll just have a cheese sandwich," Susie whispered. "I'll go for steak and chips. I'm starving," Charlie said, getting up to order. "On holiday then?" the landlady asked as she took Charlie's order. She seemed friendly. "Yes," Charlie replied. "We're staying at Singhordy House for a couple of weeks." On Brynmawr Hill." She smiled and looked over at Richard and Tom. They'd better watch out for the Beast of Brynmawr then, hadn't they? Richard laughed, but Tom did not. "It's no joke," he said seriously. After lunch, Susie and Charlie went into the center of Lunderford. It was a small, quiet village with only a few shops. A small supermarket, a post office, a tea shop, and a souvenir shop for tourists. Susie wanted to look inside the souvenir shop. She bought a plate decorated with a red kite. It was nearly dark by the time they returned to Singhordy House. The fire was still burning in the hearth, making the house warmer. "So, what shall we do now?" Charlie asked. He was not used to holidays. Normally, he spent nearly all his time at work, on the phone or the computer, never stopping. Susie put their shopping away in the kitchen. "I'm tired," she said after a while. "I think I'll rest for a bit. Let's eat later and have an early night, shall we?" Charlie went outside to fetch more firewood. The cold November daylight was fading. Above the hill, red kites circled again and again. To the east, a full moon was slowly rising into the sky. To Charlie's surprise, it was not the usual white-yellow, but a deep orange-red. He remembered the words "Hunter's Moon" from his childhood. Was this one of those nights? Chapter 6. Voice of the Beast. Now I look from my window and see the light leaving the earth. Tonight the moon will be up for most of the night. Its pale light will fall like soft rain on the woods and the hilltops. Soon I will feel the cold night wind on my face, the air moving through the hairs on my head, arms and back. I will hear the sound of my feet walking on wet ground and grass. I will notice the small noises of animals as they hurry away from me. I am going out tonight. You ask why. I will tell you. Some visitors have arrived. I watched them come through the trees. I saw them looking about in this strange new place. They are city people. Here they do not feel safe. They move carefully. Later they sat in the pub. Death has touched her with its cold fingers. I could see it in her eyes. Now she is afraid of the darkness that follows her. But there is something in her face I know. I have seen that face before, I think. Maybe in Greece, northern Italy, perhaps in a mountain village somewhere. She interests me. I cannot stop thinking of her. I want her to come with me, to be with me. I know she is ready to enter my world, but she does not know it yet. When I tell her, she will understand what she must do. Yet I must be careful. The time must be right. First, I will go to greet her and bring a gift. I must make myself ready. I walk across the dark room to the fireplace. Daylight makes me weak and sick. I prefer the soft silver light of the moon. From the wall, I take my belt. It is heavy and black and set with silver. On the silver is the face of a dog, the dog that sits at the gate of the underworld. I place the belt on the floor before the fire. I kneel and put both hands on it. Softly, I repeat the words I must say. The words are in a language no man or woman can speak. I feel the heat of the fire on my face. At the center of the flames, I watch my thoughts come and go. When I have finished the words, I rise and fasten the belt. At once, my arms and legs grow strong. I look up at the dark sky and give a wild cry. Then, in one great leap, I go out of the room through the open window. The night is cold, but I do not notice it. I will not feel it until I become a man again. I touch the belt around my waist. I will know what to do when the moment comes. Chapter 7. The Gift. It was still dark when Susie woke up. She looked at the clock and saw it was 3 in the morning. She lay in bed in the darkness, Charlie's warm body beside her. It felt strange to wake so suddenly. Had someone knocked at the door and called her name? Or was it another dream, like always? Her body jumped at a sound. There was a soft noise at the bedroom window. Was something trying to get in? The sound came again and again. Charlie. There's something outside, she whispered, her voice sounding too loud. What? Go back to sleep. There's nothing there, Charlie muttered sleepily. Susie sat up. The wind outside had grown stronger, blowing hard through the trees. She got out of bed and went to the window. She pulled back the curtain and saw a tree brushing against the glass. That was the noise. Outside, in the bright, full moonlight, trees and grass shook in the wind. Anything could be hiding in that darkness. She turned on the lights and walked through the house. Looking in each room, there was nothing, of course. Perhaps it was only the house itself, moving with the wind like a ship at sea, that had made the knocking. She returned to bed, lay close to Charlie, and fell asleep again. When Susie woke later, sunlight was showing through the thin curtains. Charlie was still asleep. It must be late, she thought. She decided to get up, make breakfast, and take it back to him in bed. Downstairs, the fire was nearly out. They had used all the wood the night before, so she planned to fetch more from the garage. She put on a coat over her nightclothes, slipped on some shoes, and went to the door. Oddly, the door wouldn't move at first, as if something held it shut. She pulled harder. As the door opened, a scream tore from her throat, a sound deep from inside her she had never made before. Charlie, Charlie, she could not move. Charlie's feet came quickly down the stairs. What's wrong? He asked. Then he saw. The door stood open, and lying half in and half out of the kitchen was a huge, dreadful thing. Good God, what is that doing here? What is it, Charlie? Susie forced out. It's a dead sheep, he answered after a moment. Go back upstairs. I'll deal with it. The animal's body was horrible. Its mouth was open, the tongue missing. A deep cut ran from the throat down past the back legs. The wound was clean, and there was no blood. Trying to look braver than he felt, Charlie took the sheep by the hind legs. He dragged it out of the kitchen, across the road, and into the field opposite. We should tell someone, he thought. The farmer, maybe. He asked himself why the sheep was there. Had it just died? Or had something left it at their door? He tried not to imagine who or what had done it. Perhaps the Beast of Brynmawr really did exist. The thought made him feel sick. Back inside, he made tea and carried it upstairs. Susie lay in bed, her pale face framed by her short dark hair. Charlie, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen, she said. I heard strange sounds in the night, too. Knocking, like someone at the door. Do you think this is some kind of awful joke? Don't think like that, Charlie told her. It was probably just a fox or something. Maybe it dragged its food to our door. Let's forget it. We're here to relax and enjoy ourselves. Yes, all right. You're right. I'll try, Susie said. But in her mind, she could still see the sheep's cold eye staring from the kitchen floor. Do you think it could be the beast of... she began. No, Charlie interrupted quickly. I don't. Forget it. There's no such thing. Chapter 8. A walk on Brynmawr Hill. After breakfast, Charlie said, It's a beautiful day. Let's go for a walk. All right, I'll bring my camera, Susie answered, trying to sound cheerful. They set off towards the big round hill opposite the house. The autumn sun came and went behind thick grey clouds. It wasn't cold, but the wind was strong, and they were glad of their jackets. Charlie, Susie said as they climbed the grassy slope. Do you think this is Brynmawr Hill? The one they mentioned in the pub, where someone saw a werewolf 100 years ago. Charlie smiled. Probably. Come on, let's just get to the top. From the top, the countryside was striking. Around them stretched the dark hills of central Wales. Clouds drifted slowly across the sky, and on the lower slopes, the sunlight made the grass shine like pale gold. The light was perfect for photographs, and Susie quickly lifted her camera, eager to capture the scene. Listen, Charlie said. I'm going to walk on a bit while you do that. Fine. I'll take some photos here. Then I'll move towards that small hill over there, Susie replied, pointing to a rise several hundred meters away. I'll wait for you there. Charlie walked quickly, planning to make a wide circle. When he looked back, Susie was no longer in sight. The dead sheep had been on both their minds, though they had not spoken of it again. Charlie could still picture the body, torn open with parts missing, and one eye staring. Since there was no blood, it must have died somewhere else. But who or what had left it outside their house? He could not stop thinking about it. He knew Susie struggled to forget as well. It was not a pleasant start to their holiday. Charlie paused on the hill. Below him, sheep were running across a field, white shapes moving together over the green ground. Their cries rose up with the wind. Then he saw what chased them. It stopped, sat watching, then darted forward again. A dog, Charlie thought. Could a dog have left that sheep at their door? He wasn't sure. The clouds turned darker, the wind rose, and heavy drops of rain began to fall. He hurried to find Susie. When he reached the small hill, she was lying on the ground. Her camera had slipped beside her, as if dropped. Susie, Susie! Charlie shook her. What are you doing? It's raining. Your camera's getting wet. Wake up. Susie opened her eyes and looked at him. For a moment, Charlie saw a look of deep fear in her eyes that he had never seen before. Are you all right? Why did you fall asleep? Are you okay? He asked. It took her a few moments to fully wake, and Charlie grew more worried. She looked strange. No, I'm not all right. Or maybe I am. I don't know. I was standing here, taking a picture of that big tree over there. But when I looked through the camera, I had the strangest feeling. I tried to move, but couldn't. It felt like I was caught in rushing water. My legs wouldn't move. Then I felt a cold, icy wind, and I heard an animal sound, like a wolf. After that, everything went black. Charlie, do you think something is wrong with me? Am I going mad? Charlie looked at her with concern. The horror of the dead sheep had clearly affected her badly. Let's go back to the house. We're both soaked and freezing in this wind. Come on, he said softly. Chapter 9. An Accident. A few days later, Susie watched rain running down the sitting room window. They had not gone anywhere since that first day. She did not feel like doing much. She wanted only to sit, read, or stare into the fire while adding more wood and thinking. Charlie, let's go out tonight, she said suddenly. Let's go to the pub, shall we? All right, if you want. The black dog, he replied. We should go soon. There's going to be snow later. How do you know that? Susie asked. Heard it on the car radio a little while ago. I was fixing that front light, Charlie said. It was dark when they set out. Susie watched Charlie drive along the narrow road through the trees. In the car lights, he looked serious, thinking about something. She wondered who might be in the pub tonight. The farmer, perhaps, or the man called Richard. Oh no, look, it's starting to snow, Charlie cried. Yes, it is. Susie saw the small flakes caught in the headlamp beams. At first, the snow was light, But as they turned onto the main road into Llandafid, the wind hit them, and the snow began to fall thickly. Maybe we should turn back, Charlie said. It's getting heavy. It's only a short way now, Susie answered. We can have a quick drink and go home. All right, but it's getting hard to see, Charlie said, worrying as the snow fell in straight white lines. He leaned forward to look through the small clear patch on the windscreen. Suddenly, Susie screamed. Watch out, she shouted. In the falling snow, something large and dark was walking along the white line in the middle of the road. The car lights went out. What the? Charlie said. He tried to brake, but on the snow the car slid faster. There was a crashing metal sound as they hit something. When Susie opened her eyes, everything was black at first. Her head ached a little. Then she realized the car was off the road. They had struck a tree. The trunk was driven into the vehicle on Charlie's side. In the dark, it was hard to tell where the tree ended and the car began. The only sound was the wind in the branches. No one else was near. Charlie. Susie touched his arm. No answer. Charlie. Was he dead? Should she try to get him out? Would the car catch fire? A soft sound, almost like a voice, came from the other side of the road. She looked across and saw a dark shape moving between the trees. She could not tell if it was a person or an animal. It vanished quickly. A small noise came from Charlie. He was alive. At the same time, car lights moved along the road. She had to get out and get help. Her legs shook and she could not stand. She sank down into the snow. A Land Rover stopped and a man's voice asked, Are you all right? No, Susie said. We need a doctor. My husband's badly hurt, I think. She found herself crying. The man helped her out of the snow. Now then, I'm sure he'll be all right, my dear, he said kindly. Susie recognized him, Tom, the farmer from the pub. I've got a mobile in my car, she began. That's fine. Come sit in my Land Rover where it's warm, Tom said. I'll go and see your husband and get your phone. He took a blanket from his vehicle and crossed the road. From inside the Land Rover, Susie heard low voices. Charlie must be awake. After a while, Tom returned. He says his arm and leg hurt, but he's not too bad. Probably broken something, Tom told her. I don't know how to use these phones, but here, phone him for the ambulance. He handed her the mobile. Hands shaking, Susie dialed 999. Can you speak, please? She asked Tom, because she could not explain where they were. Tom spoke into the phone and then told her, Not long to wait. They'll be here soon. You stay here. I'll check on your husband. He went back to the wreck. Susie was cold and frightened. She thought the worst, perhaps. Charlie would die. She tried to go to him, but felt sick and weak. When she tried to cross the road, her legs failed, and she returned to the Land Rover. After some time, Tom came back and sat beside her. You on holiday, are you? He asked gently. Yes, Susie answered. We're staying at Singhordy House. We were going to the Black Dog for a drink. Oh, yes. You were in the pub a few days ago, weren't you? Tom said. I'm Tom Lloyd. He introduced himself properly. Another car passed, and a man asked if he could help. Tom said help was on the way, and the car drove off. That new fellow, Richard, he's a friendly sort, Tom remarked. Bought an old house to fix up. Susie remembered and asked, was he in the pub the other day when we were there? Think so, Tom replied. They were quiet for a moment. Then Susie noticed something on the seat beside her. A gun. Do you shoot for sport? She asked. No, Tom answered. Only to protect my stock foxes, birds, and dogs that threaten my sheep. We found a dead sheep at our door a few days back, Susie said suddenly. It was strange. Bits of it were gone. Maybe one of yours? Maybe, Tom said slowly. I've lost 5 sheep. There's something out there, large and hungry. His voice dropped. I'm going to find it and kill it. He looked at her for a moment and then took an object from his pocket. He placed it in her hand. It was small and metallic and heavy. A bullet. It's silver, Tom said softly. Chapter 10. Voice of the Beast. So far, so good. That went well. My plan is working. I am skilled at this. I am patient and I think of every detail. I know how to move forward, one small step at a time. I know how to get what I want. Time means nothing to me. I can wait and wait for the right moment. It is like taking a picture of a child or an animal. You must focus hard and think of nothing else. You must know what will happen before it does, or it is like flying a plane or steering a boat in a strong wind, just a light touch here, a touch there, and the course keeps straight to the end. The husband is gone for now. He is injured, but I do not care. He is hurt just enough to keep him in the hospital and away from her, but not so badly that she will worry too much. I do not want her thoughts full of him. I want her ready to speak to me. Things will be hard for her now. She needs someone to help with the small daily tasks. She is weak because the darkness is coming closer and she knows it. Before, the darkness was only in her dreams. Now she feels it behind her when she is awake, and she is afraid. She is alone and needs someone she can talk to. I will help her. She will talk to me because I will listen, not like her husband. He does not know how to listen. Little by little, step by step. That is the way to do it. Chapter 11. An unexpected visitor. It was after 10 o'clock at night when Tom finally left Susie in the small kitchen of Singhordy House. Since she could not stay at the hospital with Charlie, Tom had driven her back. How thoughtful Tom is, she thought. She sat at the table, looking at the white walls, cupboards, fridge, and table. Nothing moved. Without Charlie, the silence felt heavy. In London, she was used to being alone, but here, in this house, it made her uneasy. She realized she was frightened. Now Charlie was in hospital with a broken arm and leg. He was lucky his neck wasn't broken. Poor Charlie. The doctor said he would need to stay there at least a week. Poor me too, she thought. What am I supposed to do now? I don't have a car. Whose idea was it to take a holiday anyway? What a holiday this is. Me alone in this cold, wet, Welsh house. in the middle of nowhere. I can't even walk to Lundafid. There's nobody nearby. And what if? She stopped herself before finishing the thought. At least I have my mobile phone. And there's Tom, she reminded herself. He's been very kind. Tom had told her he lived on the other side of the hill. She could call him any time if she needed something. He said he might come in the morning to see her, though he was busy and not sure if he had the time. She could always call a taxi from Lundafid to visit the hospital. Thinking of Tom made her feel safer. She remembered the gun she had seen in his Land Rover and the silver bullet. At first, she hadn't understood. Then she recalled the old stories her father used to tell. But surely Tom didn't really believe a werewolf was killing his sheep. Did he? She had asked if he was joking, but he had only smiled and said, "You never know." You can't be certain. She could not believe he was serious. In my father's village, she had told him lightly, people believe that when a werewolf dies, it turns into a vampire. You can't kill them. They just change into something else. Do they? Tom had asked. Of course, it's nonsense, she told herself now. Vampires and werewolves are just old tales. She went into the sitting room to check the fire. She thought of Brynmawr Hill and the zoo, but reminded herself that the danger wasn't real. It was only in her mind, and she must fight it. She wished Charlie was home. Oh no, she said aloud. The fire had gone out. That meant no hot water and a cold house. And the wood box was empty too. All right, let's see if I can manage this on my own. She lifted the wood box and opened the front door, leaving it ajar to let in a little light, then walked to the garage. When the box was full, she stood up to return inside. Suddenly, she realized someone or something was near, moving towards her in the dark. She screamed, dropping the box. Wood scattered across the ground. She froze, unable to move. "Oh, I'm terribly sorry," a friendly voice said. She recognized it at once. It was Richard, the man from the pub. "I frightened you, didn't I?" he went on. "I just came to see if you were all right. I thought you might need something. Tom told me it was you two in the accident. I saw it when I passed by earlier on my way to the pub." He sounded as if he were asking a question. "Yes," Susie said. "I know, I saw you. That's kind of you." "I'm fine, but Charlie's in hospital with a broken arm and leg. Some holiday this is. I'm so sorry. Poor Charlie," Richard said. "Here, let me help you pick up the wood." "Thanks," Susie said, adding, "I didn't hear you drive up." "No, I walked the last part," Richard explained. "The snow's bad on this road, and I didn't want trouble with the car. I don't have a Land Rover like the farmers here." "Well, would you like to come in?" Susie asked uncertainly. At least he could help with the fire, and it would be good to have company. She made them both tea while Richard lit the fire. Soon the room grew warmer. Susie found herself talking freely to him, almost as if he were an old friend. She spoke about her life in London, her father, her family in Slovenia, and her work. Richard smiled and listened, as if everything she said mattered. She had never talked like this to a man she didn't know. She noticed he was strikingly good-looking, with clear blue eyes watching her. It felt strangely easy, almost comfortable. as if she could fall in love with him. Then she caught herself. Charlie was in hospital, and here she was with another man in the house. How could she even think such a thing? Uh, I think I'd better go to bed now, Susie said. Of course, forgive me. How thoughtless, keeping you up so late, Richard said. You must be very tired. I'll leave. But if you'd like, I can drive you to the hospital tomorrow. I need to go into town anyway. That's very kind. Yes, please, Susie replied. I'll come around about 12 then, he asked. That would be wonderful. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow. Later, when Susie got into bed, she realized how tired she was. But in the night, the dreams returned. A voice called her. Come with me. She recognized the voice, but couldn't say whose it was. Suddenly she woke. Outside, a horrible scream broke the silence. It must be an animal caught by something, she thought. But the sound came again and again, a hopeless, deathly cry. Susie pulled the blankets over her head to block out the noise. Chapter 12. Richard's House. Looking out of her window the next morning, Susie saw dark grasses showing through the melting snow in the fields. On the road, the snow was thin. It was not as bad as she had feared the night before. She remembered Richard was coming to take her to the hospital. This time, he would be able to drive up to the house. She phoned the hospital. The nurse said Charlie was all right, but had a difficult night. Susie told her she would come later, although she was not sure exactly when. Her phone rang. Hello, my dear, a woman's voice said. It's Catherine Lloyd, Tom's wife. Tom asked me to ring you. I'm afraid he's had to go out and can't come up this morning. Are you all right? Do you need anything? No, I'm fine, Susie answered. I'll go to the hospital later. Richard is taking me. Richard, Catherine repeated. Yes, Susie said, realizing she did not know his surname. Tom knows him. He's new in the village. Richard saw the accident and came by last night to see if we were all right. That was kind of him, Catherine said. Well, that's good then. Richard arrived at about midday, as he had said. Hello there, he said, smiling. How are you? Fine, Susie replied, glad to see him. Shall we go? He said. I forgot my wallet, so we'll have to go back to my house first. It's not far, about 1 kilometer over the hill. By road, you go back to the main road and take the next turning. It won't take long. No problem, Susie said. Anyway, I'll show you my house. I'm sure you'll find it interesting. Oh? Susie wanted to know more. Richard talked as he drove, smiling. It used to belong to my family a long time ago. When I came here once, the owner wanted to sell, so I bought it straight away. Where did you live before? Susie asked. In Europe for several years. I was working there. But I grew tired of moving and living from a suitcase. I stopped working for a while. I'd made enough money. I've spent some of it on the house. How nice, Susie said, thinking how pleasant it would be not to work. But she could not imagine living alone on a Welsh mountain forever. Too quiet, too lonely. Look, she said, as they passed a group of men in dark jackets standing by the road. They wore hats and boots and carried guns, staring across a field towards the woods. Do you think they're hunting the Beast of Brynmawr? She asked, laughing. Perhaps, Richard said, but not at this time of day. They won't find it now, I don't think. No, she agreed, laughing. It's probably asleep somewhere. They turned a corner and Richard said, There it is. For a moment I thought you meant the beast, Susie cried. Is that really your house? Ahead stood a handsome stone building, 10 windows on the top floor and 8 on the ground. A large front door with a pretty roof above it. It looked like an 18th century house, the sort a wealthy family would own. She had not expected this. Yes, it needs work, Richard said. Does it? Susie replied. As they drew nearer, she saw many windows had no glass. The front wall looked thin. If the wind blew, it might fall like a row of cards. So you actually live here? She asked. Well, a couple of rooms are fine, Richard said. It's not comfortable, but it will do. He stopped at the front door and they got out. Come on, he said. I'll show you around. Inside, the great door opened onto a large room with a stone floor. A stairway led up, but several steps were missing. Richard smiled. We won't try that way. Follow me. He led her through other huge rooms full of stone and dust. Nearly there, he said, though they walked for a long time. A drop of water fell on Susie's head. She looked up and saw no floor above, just holes in the roof where the sky showed through. They climbed narrow steps, past glassless windows that looked down to the road. Finally, Richard opened a door into a room that felt warm. A fire burned, and there were chairs and a sofa. Have a seat, he said. Would you like some coffee? Susie wanted to go to the hospital. What should she say? I've just remembered something I must do, Richard said before she could answer. It will take a moment. Sit down and I'll bring coffee. Then we'll go. He looked at her. All right, coffee would be good, she said, sitting on a rather dirty chair near the fire. Richard left and Susie looked at the room. On the dark wood walls were large portraits of men and women from long ago. One man looked a little like Richard. Were these his ancestors? The faces made her uneasy, like pictures in horror films whose eyes seemed to move. She laughed at herself. She reached for her handbag. Oh, I'm so stupid, she said. The phone was not there. She had left it on the kitchen table at Singhordy House. Richard returned with her coffee. He stood with his back to the fire. Thanks, Susie said. Do you have a phone I could use? I need to ring the hospital. No, he said sharply. There's no phone here. Then his friendly smile faded. He seemed to be waiting for something. The room felt very still. Susie looked at the fire and sipped her coffee. A strange light shone in Richard's blue eyes as he watched her drink. Sleepiness came over her, and she sank back into the chair. Her eyelids closed. Richard stood motionless before the fire. She saw he wore a large black belt with silver. She looked up. He had a beard. Strange. She thought he had been clean-shaven before. Then the dream began. She saw the dark, deadly thing that had followed her in her dreams. Its face was hidden. A hand reached for hers and she knew whose it was. Fear filled her. "You're one of us. You know that, don't you?" The voice was as familiar as her own. "No, I'm not. I will not listen. I will not," she cried. "I knew when you came here. You came to find me, didn't you?" The voice went on and would not stop. "No, no, I didn't. I don't know you," she said. "Take me to Charlie, please, please." "You don't really want Charlie," the voice told her. "You're mine. You know it in your heart." She felt herself begin to move towards him. He was right, perhaps. She would do anything he wanted. She could not stop herself. Chapter 13. Escape. When Susie opened her eyes, the room was dark. A faint glow came from the fire, which was nearly out, and through the window she could see a large white moon. What time was it? She stood up to check her watch in the moonlight, but as she rose, a sharp pain struck her head between the eyes. She quickly sat down again. Was she ill? Why did she feel so weak? And where was she? She remembered a dreadful dream, the worst she had ever had. But it wasn't real. It was only a dream. Or was it? Looking around, she saw she was in an unfamiliar place. It wasn't her London flat. It wasn't the holiday house either. Where was she? On the walls were large portraits. Then she remembered. Richard. Of course, this was his house. She must have fallen asleep here. They had been planning to visit Charlie, hadn't they? But what happened? Where was Richard? Trying to think clearly, she recalled drinking coffee and feeling suddenly sleepy. Then fear struck her. Perhaps Richard had put something in it. She had read about drugs that made women helpless. What was the name? She couldn't remember. She forced herself to stand and moved carefully to the door. She tried the light switch, but nothing happened. The door was locked. "Richard!" she shouted. No reply. She called again, but only her own voice came back. Now she was sure she was in danger. What was Richard planning? He must be mad. She had to escape. She hurried to the window. It was locked too. But below, she could see the small roof above the front door. If she climbed onto it, she could jump down to the ground. She needed to break the glass. By the fire, she found a half-burnt log. The glass shattered noisily. Richard must have heard. She climbed out and dropped onto the small roof. Not too bad, she thought. Now the big jump. She looked down. The ground seemed far away. A sound came from the room behind her. There was no time. She closed her eyes and stepped off the roof. She hit the ground hard, but wasn't hurt. She stood up quickly. A shout came from above. She had to run. The moon lit the road ahead. As she ran, a terrifying scream came from the house. It froze her blood. She turned back but saw nothing following. Yet, the snowy road lay clear before her. Then, further ahead, she saw a man approaching, carrying a gun. Without thinking, she turned off the road and ran across a field towards a high hill. She began climbing, gripping plants and bushes to stop herself from slipping. Her hands were soon cut, and she wiped the blood with her clothes. At the top, she realized she was on Brynmawr Hill. Yes, Richard had said his house was nearby. Perhaps she could get back to Singhordy House. But it was locked. The key was in her bag, which she had left at Richard's. What could she do? And poor Charlie. He must be worried sick. Maybe she should try Tom's place. But which way was it? She had no idea. Exhaustion took over. She needed to rest. Her head ached, and her arms and legs were sore. She sat down on the cold, snowy ground. She didn't care anymore. Then she felt the icy wind sweeping across the hilltop. She was near the spot where she had taken photos days earlier. The wind roared in her ears, drowning all else. Out of the darkness, climbing towards her, came a huge black creature. The moonlight caught its eyes, glowing like fire. It gave a strange, terrible howl, like a wolf. This wasn't a dream. This was real. She had to run, but she couldn't move. The beast rushed closer, its legs driving it forward faster than the wind. Susie stood frozen. It was almost on her, ready to leap. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed across the hill. The creature rose onto its back legs, towering more than 3 meters high. Its lips pulled back in a monstrous grin, its sharp teeth flashing white in the moonlight. A streak of silver showed in the fur of its stomach. As Susie screamed, another shot rang out. A dark hole opened in its body. With a wild cry, it turned and fled towards the woods, running on 2 legs. At that instant, Susie knew the awful truth. It wasn't an animal. It was a man. Well, came a voice behind her. It was Tom. Come on, young lady. Let's get you home. Chapter 14. Silver Bullet. It took a long while before Susie stopped shaking. She felt frozen. Tom and his wife Catherine watched her closely as she sipped hot, sweet tea. They were kind people, but she felt small and helpless. They had taken away her wet, blood-stained clothes and wrapped her in a blanket like a child. In the warm light of their sitting room, she was safe at last, away from the darkness and fear. You'd better stay here with us, my dear, Catherine said gently. She was clearly worried about the young woman trembling on the sofa. Something awful had happened. Susie could not go back to a holiday house now. Tom says he found you walking on the hill in the middle of the night, Catherine said. Did something happen? What were you doing out there? I don't really know. Susie was too tired to explain. Tears came suddenly, and she cried and cried. Now, Catherine, Tom said, see what you've done? No more questions. Come on, my dear, bed for you. That first night in Tom and Catherine's home, Susie slept deeply, without dreams. The next morning, Catherine checked on her several times. Susie's face was pale as she slept, so Catherine let her rest. She did not wake until the afternoon. In the following days, Susie slowly returned to herself, but her memory of what happened was broken. She told Catherine, someone, Richard, was taking me to see Charlie. We went to his house. Then I don't know what happened. Maybe I went for a walk and got lost. What must Charlie be thinking? Can I call him? Don't worry about that husband of yours, Catherine said kindly. Tom already saw him and explained. What did Tom say? Susie asked. That he found you up on Brynmawr Hill while out hunting the thing killing his sheep, Catherine replied. And what did Charlie say? I don't know, dear. But Tom told him you're fine and that you'll visit him soon as you're stronger. Charlie must think I've gone mad, Susie thought. Maybe I have. I've lost my bag, she told Catherine. It had my money in it and the key to Singhordy House. She felt foolish. Maybe it's still at the holiday house, Catherine suggested. I don't think so. I don't know, Susie said sadly. Well then, perhaps Richard has it, Catherine said. Yes, maybe, Susie admitted at last. Even hearing Richard's name made her tremble. Don't worry, Catherine said, putting an arm around her. Tom will go over to Richard's and get it for you. Susie knew she had been close to a place of darkness, an underworld. For a moment, she had almost wanted to stay there. Somehow she had escaped alive. She could not yet face what it meant. All she knew was that it was a place where living people did not belong, and few ever returned. A couple of days later, Tom sat at the kitchen table eating. Susie noticed her bag lying beside him. You found it? She asked. Yes, he said, keeping his eyes on his plate. He didn't look at her. He knew what she would ask and wasn't sure he wanted to answer. Did Richard have it? Well, yes, Tom muttered, looking uneasy. Did you see him then? No, he wasn't there. Tom stared at the table. Strange thing is, no one's seen Richard lately. He hasn't been in the pub since that night. Oh, and stranger still. Tom lowered his voice. He told people at the pub he was fixing up his house. Yes, Susie said quickly. I saw it. Much of it was falling down with broken windows. He said he had to rebuild some of it. A couple of rooms were all right. I remember the room with the portraits. This morning, Tom said slowly, I moved my sheep to a field near Richard's place. I decided to ask him about your bag. And? Susie pressed. Well, he looked carefully at her. If it was ever a house, it isn't now. It's ruins. Trees and grass grow over the stones. When I went closer, it looked untouched for years. I'd say no one's been near it for a century. His voice shook. Susie felt the hair on her arms rise, a coldness running through her. Where did you find the bag, Tom? She asked. It was lying there on the stones. And I found something else, he said softly. In the woods on the hill. What? Susie whispered. Tom left the room and returned, holding something heavy. He placed it on the table. Susie looked down. It was a thick black belt with a silver dog's face on it. Her face drained of color. Tom, I have to ask you, she said carefully. What really happened on the hill that night? Was it a dog after the sheep? Did you shoot it? Perhaps, Tom said. I was sure I hit him. Not the first time, but the second. Susie stared at him. He hadn't answered her question. I'm almost certain I struck him in the heart, Tom continued. But when I looked the next day, nothing. No body, no blood. Then he added, You had a lucky escape. Lucky I had this. He lifted his gun and showed her a silver bullet. You know, he nearly got you. He, Susie asked softly. They stared at each other. Both knew what they were thinking was impossible. After a long pause, Susie said quietly, I'd like to see Charlie. Of course, Tom replied. Catherine's going shopping this afternoon. She'll take you in. Thank you. You've both been so kind, Susie said. She thought of Charlie, of what she might say. She wanted him to know their time together here had mattered. In London, they had barely seen each other in months. Always busy. She wanted to tell him she was sorry he was hurt. Maybe they could try another holiday and soon. Maybe even talk about having a child. Not now, but before long. Chapter 15, Voice of the Beast. From where I sit now, the rivers look like silver snakes. The fields are small green squares, and the trees appear as tiny flowers. Below me, your world is only a map. I can see the sheep. They look like stones on a beach, dirty and grey against the patches of snow in the fields. The woods on the hillside are black as night. A thin line of smoke rises from a house at the foot of my hill. Two women come out of that house. They move like toy people. They get into a small car, and I hear its engine begin. It sounds like an angry fly. Shall I call to them, just for a game? Just to see, even from here, if she is still afraid. I can see very well. I have the eyes of a hunting bird. So what happened to me, you may ask? Do you remember what I told you before? No, perhaps not. I will say it again. There is nothing you can do to escape us. You may think silver bullets can kill us, but they cannot. Yes, the farmer did strike me with his silver bullet. My body turned to stone. One of the stones the farmer passed as he looked for me. If that sounds impossible, go and look at the great stones that sit on lonely hills. Look for faces in the rock. Ask yourself, what might be trapped inside? I returned for a short time to the world of darkness and the undead. But as I said, I will always need the blood of living things. I will always have to move into your world. I cannot stay away. Bad luck for you. We simply move from one body to another, from place to place. This time I am tired. You cannot imagine how wearisome it is, again and again, to find a new hiding place. So no, I will not roam the earth again and again. I will stay here among these woods and fields. Now I am one of the red kites that fly over the Welsh hills. One of those birds that look for animals to kill and eat. This suits me. From up here, I can see everything. True, my plan did not go exactly as I wanted. She was stronger than I expected. She escaped when I thought she was mine. I made an error. My plan was not careful enough, but there is something she does not yet know, and I will wait now for that thing to happen. Wait, what does that mean? Time passing. You people, I pity you. You speak of beginnings and endings, but the start and end of everything are beyond your minds. You are too small. Do you not know the beginning is still happening? Those sounds your scientists pick up from beyond the stars, they think those signals tell how the world began. In truth, they are the last notes of a lazy, timeless laugh. Your world is a great and terrible joke. And those strange creatures people whisper about, the Loch Ness monster in Scotland, the Yeti in the Himalayas, the Mono Grande in Brazil, the Chupacabras in Mexico, the Volkadlak in Central Europe. What are they? They are children of the darkness. They are part of the joke. They bring messages from the Joker. I am forgetting. What was I going to say? You are waiting to know, aren't you? All right. Because you ask, I will tell you. She will have a child soon. When she looks through her camera at that baby, she will see that I am the father. For the camera does not lie. It shows the world as it truly is. With her camera, she will see things her eyes cannot. And I swear by my father Lycaon, who killed a child and offered it to the god Zeus, that I will return to take what is mine. Chapter 16, The Photograph. The winter passed slowly. Snow melted into grey fields, and then into green again. Susie went to see Charlie as often as she could. He was better now. His bones were healing. He had a plaster on his arm and leg, but he smiled more than he had before. Seeing him made her feel safer. Tom and Catherine came to the hospital one afternoon. Catherine held Susie's hand, and Tom brought news from the farms. The sheep were still being watched. Men with guns walked in the woods most nights. But life went on. People worked, children played, and the village had its small routines. Susie tried to forget everything that had happened on Brynmawr Hill. She kept thinking of Richard's blue eyes and the dark room with the portraits. She thought of the silver belt and the strange way the world had changed. Most of all, she thought of the thing that had been part man and part animal. At night, the old fear sometimes woke her, but each morning she found courage again. One afternoon, Charlie gave her a small present. It was a new camera strap he had made. For your pictures, he said. You love taking photos. Don't stop. She felt love for him when he said that. She wanted to tell him everything, but she was afraid of what he would think. She did not want to lose him. Not long after, Susie found she was not feeling right. She felt tired all the time. At first, she thought it was worry. Then she missed a period. She bought a little test from the shop and, with hands that shook, she waited. It was positive. She would have a baby. She did not tell Charlie at once. She wanted to be sure. Then one evening, she sat down and told him quietly. He put his hand on her cheek and smiled. We'll get through this together, he said. A child, that will be something good. Months went by. The village prepared for spring. Susie and Charlie walked together. Sometimes Susie carried her camera, but she took fewer pictures now and kept them for a small book of memories. She liked to look at light, the trees, the red kites on the hill. One day she took a picture of Charlie and herself in the garden at Singori House. It was late afternoon and the sun was soft. She set the camera and smiled. After she developed the photograph, she sat down to look at it. Everything was there. Charlie's hand, her own face, the dark stone house behind them. Then she looked more closely. In the reflection on the window of the old house, behind them, there was a shape. At first, she thought it was a trick of light. Then she saw it clearly enough to make her heart stop. The face in the glass was not Charlie's. It was a hard, pale face with cold eyes. It was the face she had seen in her dreams and in Richard's room. The camera showed it as if it had always been there. She carried the photograph to Tom. He looked at it and did not speak for a long time. Then he turned the picture over in his hands and touched the silver belt that lay on his chair. "You were brave," he said at last. "You've been lucky." His voice shook a little. Susie thought of Lycaon and of promises. She thought of the way the world did not forgive or forget. Still, when she looked at Charlie asleep that night, she felt love and a small stubborn hope. She knew danger might return. She knew the beast might come down from the hill again. But she also knew this: there would be a child soon who would not be afraid of the dark because a family would protect it. For now, she wrapped the photograph in paper and kept it in a box with her camera. Outside, on the hill, a red kite circled slowly and watched the fields. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more emotional and exciting stories, and share it with friends who love a good mystery. And let us know in the comments, what would you do if you came face to face with the beast in the dark?